Now, this week, the federal government declared that with the strategic measures aimed at addressing high food prices nationwide, prices of items are expected to crash in the next 180 days, that is by January 2025. The measures include the suspension of duties, tariffs, and taxes for the importation of some food commodities through land and sea borders, as well as the importation of 500,000 metric tons of wheat and maize. To discuss the federal government's strategic measures and how they are expected to tackle the rise in food prices, we have joining us from Kaduna an economist, Professor Seth Akutson. He joins us virtually from Kaduna State. Hello, Prof. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, thank you very much for having me.
All right. 150 days approved as duty-free import window for assorted food commodities. How effective will this be in bringing down prices of food commodities? And what safeguards should be put in place to prevent abuse?
Oh, thank you very much for having me here. The crisis we're facing in the food supply industry is a challenge that we have to do everything within our power to address. And I think the government haven't spent 1 year and they have not been able to tame the high inflationary rate on food items. If you look at the inflation that we're facing today, going far above what is expected at over 30%, you will now realize that everything has to be done to bring down food prices because people are hungry in the land. And any step that will help to tame those inflationary trends on food items should be addressed. But the objective, of course, is to see if we can bring down food prices, if we can address inflation on food items, and again, if we can increase the supply of the goods and services, and then improve on food security. So having said that, the question is whether we're going to achieve those goals is one thing. Because if you look at the activities of middlemen has also been a challenge. How do we address the middlemen that may want to stand in between and ensure that this food do not get to the people at the right time, or they have to put some markup and jack the prices up? That's another matter that the government has to address. Secondly, these food items, the prices that we're facing on the high items is not just because of the challenge of production, it's logistics and supply chain issue. Transportation costs have not been addressed. And so because the transportation costs and logistic matter and the activity of middlemen is part of what is increasing those prices. How do you tackle that? Now, corruption at the borders. Because what you are doing now, you are saying that people can import freely without duties. And that has is creating opportunity for those at the borders to now begin to collect illegal tolls and fees from people. And that will also increase the prices. What would have thought is that the government, even if you reduce the price, at least somebody will have a receipt or passage or something to make it to pass. But allowing just a free flow, it will give the opportunity to those at the border to begin to emerge in corruption and start extorting people at the border. And so what you want to achieve may not be achieved. And finally, when we look at what the government need to do, of course, they have to organize a kind of the importation will be through agreement with foreign countries that have produce it to give us at a generous concessionary rate, so that the government will find a way to be importing them across state and across borders so that people can access it. Because one of the things that will affect the prices, because since we're importing from abroad, it depends on international prices. And now, as a result of massive pressure from Nigeria to import because of the massive population and because the number one to import, that may also bring about increase in the international price. So government has to be very, very careful in the way to handle this, but it's a right step in the right direction because we need an urgent and emergency intervention in the crisis in the food industry you're currently facing. Thank you.
So what safeguards are you recommending to prevent abuse?
Well, of course, the security agencies, but they themselves, they are not immune from corruption. Those are the safeguards, and people to try to look for honest people to put them to monitor, the flow of food, the activities of food. But to be frank, it's a very difficult task because those who are saddled with the security apparatus to checkmate some of this, they themselves are also involved in security challenges. But apart from that, and I think the government is taking the right step and with the right kind of persons in place, and I think we'll do well to address the food crisis that we're facing.
All right. The federal government also has a plan of importing 250,000 metric tons of wheat and 250,000 metric tons of maize and will be supplied to small-scale processors and millers across the country. What do you see that doing for food sufficiency and, of course, pricing?
Well, it will help a lot, but as I said earlier, the activities of middlemen and others. Now, you see, business incentive for business is very good for government to supply that maybe to small holders, farmers, or those who are in the processing industry to be involved. But as I said, it will still be tend to abuse. I am based in Kaduna. The government have tried such kind of policy in the CGT, cotton garment and textile industry in Kaduna. It did not work, despite the fact that they're pumping, I think, about 70 billion naira into the frame, and people siphon it. Sometimes they even take that money and import from China and just change the label. And so government has good intention. It's a very good intention to support the smallholders to see how they can involve in the process, particularly to get the paddy rice and all that and all the wheat available so that the processing thing will be there. But sometimes even those people may not even bring down the prices. They may take advantage of government. Government did that, you win to support, small scale industries. At the end of the day, they collected that money. Substantial number of them do not utilize the money the way it's supposed to be, and a number of those businesses went down the drain. And so this is another policy that looks good on the surface, but the implementation is what we're waiting to see. Whether what they call the Nigerian factor will still continue the corruption tendencies that pervade all these policies, whether it will hold water or not. But I think the policy is good. Let us see how it works on smallholders.
Good. Now, government to support farmers to scale up production during the 2024-2025 farming seasons. What type of support do you want to see and hope this is not coming too late?
No. It's, the farming season is up and running. Nothing is late. And as we said, it's better late than never. But sometimes the government misplaces priorities. The major challenge that farmers are facing, particularly in the north, is insecurity. And once you address the matter of insecurity, the farming season will boom. That is, there's no questions about it. So all this talk about incentive, providing this, as I'm talking to you now, in Kaduna, there is a number of kidnapping cases still ongoing, virtually on a daily basis. At the peripheries, at the farming areas, some are even collecting tolls from the farmers. And so you can see what we are facing. So government should address security. In fact, the people are not even asking for too much from government. They are not asking for money. They are not asking for any incentive. Say, allow us access to our farms. And that is not being done. So you can see the incentive. And secondly, fertilizer. Some of the fertilizer is going for 30 something, 40,000 per bag. How many farmers can afford it? So if you buy two urea or two form of fertilizer or so, you are spending 80,000. You buy three, you are spending 120,000. How do they cope? So the fertilizer distribution and supply should be enhanced. Government should work on that. This is what the farmers are looking for. And then seedling, we have a place that is called, is it Premier in Zaria, that provide this seedling to people with some incentive. Government can go in partner with them to see how this seedling, because the seed that some of the farmers keep to plant, they've eaten them as a result of hunger in the land. So they are lacking seeds and they're lacking, the seedling to go into farming and all that. And what happened again? With the substantial aspect of the farming is still, subsistent in nature. Farming for export and all these things, nobody is talking about it. Government has to look at that. And then if you look at extension services that used to help farmers, even the extension service officers and workers, they don't want to go to the farmland because of insecurity. That's an area, again, government may want to look at and enhance, farming activity. Apart from that, the government will now supply some incentive, encourage people to go into farming, particularly around, their houses, around their compound, just like the first lady of the nation is doing. So these are area government will look at. If we look at that, we may now hit the Eldorado.
Now, the measures are to be implemented over the next 180 days. Can this time frame achieve lower food prices as expected?
Yes, of course, this is an extremely short-term measures. Of course, the rule of thumb and, of activities, particularly you want to address particularly, is 90 days. Within 90 days, we should be able to make impact if we want to make. But here, the number is now double to 180 days. And I think that the time frame is not bad. That means we want to ensure that towards the end of the year, there's enough food supply. And that is very strategic from the government side to address those issues within the next 6 months. And I think if we are if we intensify action and with tenacity, with seriousness, we should be able to make impact from the supply side of food items, as well as address the prices of those goods with all this hitting from every side of the divide to ensure that the government address. So the time frame is not bad enough, since it's short time and very, very short time, not up to a year. And I think the government should bring an emergency to it. If you add emergency to the trajectory, you will see that within a short period of time, we should be able to address this matter. Government needs that urgency, and we need to demonstrate that there is emergency in the food supply industry.
Okay, so what about the long term? What do you recommend
Of
as
course.
measures?
Oh, yes. Within the long term, that's what I'm talking about. Within the long term, we have to look at what are the causes of all this supply. And we have to do the arithmetic, the econometrics, the projection, the prognosis. We have to do it very well. When you look at the long term, we can now begin to talk within the next 3 years of the lifespan of this government. The long time may be after its lifespan. For what people want to see, the impact, this government has spent 1 year. So within the next 3 years, what do they intend to do? One, uh, address the insecurity headlong, face it headlong. Let people go back to their farm. This is a long-term measure that we address issue of food supply in the nation once and for all. Address the issue of fertilizer, encourage people to set up fertilizer industry, the Dangote, all the rest of them that are doing this fertilizer, and then the prices of those fertilizers should come down drastically from the current near 40,000, to maybe about 10,000, 15,000 or thereabout. This is a fairly medium-term measures, not even long time, because at the long time, like Keynes will say, we're all there. So the government have to address the 3 years lifespan left for it to see that. So this is what I think the government should do within the medium term. Not only that, the government should begin to go around to sensitize people, to assure them, about what they're doing, about insecurity, to begin to work if it means going to the bushes, clear some bushes, just like they're doing now, I think in Niger State, or is it in Kogi State, where they are providing, farmlands with adequate security to citizens to farm and produce. So this is what government will work with the Nigerian Government Forum to ensure that every state is involved in this kind of trajectory, in this kind of work. Before you know what is happening, the food crisis will be abated to some level.
Professor Seth Akutson, thank you very much for joining us on the program today.
Oh, thank you very much. My pleasure.